Okay, hi John. I'm going to give you kind of a quick instruction usage video here on your new scooter. So we'll start with some basics. In order to put fuel and 2-cycle oil in, you need to come back here to the seat and push this in and lift the seat. This does lock so that you can lock the fuel, and if you want to lock helmets on, they just hook onto these tabs. Okay, so here we have the fuel filler. This is where your gas will go. You just unscrew this tab or this knob. You don't have to take it all the way off. You just loosen it. It pops to the side, and then you'll open up and you just put gas right in there. You don't have to pre-mix the 2-cycle oil. This does it for you. So just fill her on up with the gas of your choice. I like to run premium. And then that just goes back on. This is your filler for the 2-cycle oil. This just comes out and you fill it up. You don't need to fill it all the way up the tube. I don't recommend that you do that. About halfway down the tube is a slip joint, kind of like a plumbing joint, and they can leak there. So what you're going to want to do is fill it above this sight glass. And I left this low right now so that you can see there's a little white kind of nipple inside of this clear glass. And that's an indicator so you can see how much oil is in here. So I wanted to demonstrate how to tell when you're running out of oil and when you're full enough. So I've got some 2-cycle oil here. I like to run synthetic. You want to make sure whatever oil you run is good for an injector system. But I'm going to go ahead and just pour this oil in, and you'll see this sight glass beginning to fill up. Maybe it might be a little, there we go. You can see it starting to fill, and pretty soon you won't be able to see that nipple. So that there is just, that's your indicator for when your 2-cycle oil is getting low. You'll see the bubble appear here, and then gradually it'll drop. Below this sight glass, you still have a reserve of 2-cycle oil equal to about a half pint. You really don't want to run out of oil or you can seize up the motor. Okay, so next we have some starting protocols. This is your choke knob. This is your fuel petcock. There's 3 positions to the fuel petcock. If you look here, there's a C. Just think of that as closed. So all the way to the left as you're sitting on the bike, or right if you're facing this, is off. This middle position is on, and then all the way over is reserve. And there's actually an R on there for reserve. So that's how you want to run that. Moving up here, you have the key switch. Pretty straightforward, just like a car key. Sorry, this thing's trying to turn on me. So you turn it once to turn on. Underneath is also a kill switch. You want to make sure that's in the run position. Those will allow you to start the scooter. Okay, so with those 2 things in the on and run position, you'll reach down here and pull the choke out. This is kind of a little more complicated because of the sidecar, but with everything on, choke out. Now I've got the fuel in the reserve position right now. You don't need to give it any gas. You're just going to use preferably your right foot because you got a good strong kick there, and just give it a nice solid kick, and it will come on. Once it's running, go ahead and close that choke. Pretty straightforward. One thing that I think is important that I do is that before I store the bike, before I turn off the motor, I like to go ahead and turn the gas off and let it run for a few seconds so that some of the fuel in the carburetor is drained and it's less prone to any kind of flooding. And then obviously you can either turn it off by the switch or by the key. Either one will work for you. This may be a little more complicated than I can do by myself, but basic controls are clutch. This is your twist drift shifter. So if you notice, there's numbers 1 through 4, and there's some alignment dots, one here and one here and one here. So to put it into first gear, you would pull the clutch in and twist this back. You don't want to do that with the motor off, or you'll stretch the control cables and everything will go out of alignment. So you only want to shift when the motor's running. Over on this side, we have, of course, throttle, just like on your automatic scooter, and front brake, which would be the same as your automatic scooter. The floor here, that is your rear brake. These vintage bikes aren't quite as good at braking as your modern bike. There's no disc brake on it. They're both drums. And so you want to use the rear more than you might on your modern scooter. Over here, you have horn, high and low beam. Obviously, we covered the kill switch, and this is just left and right turn signal. They're not self-canceling turn signals, so you will need to turn them off if you're using those. These latches will allow you to remove the side covers to access the spare tire if needed. And the battery is under this side as well. All you do is you pull these out and twist, just like this. You want to make sure they're latched in position. Okay, and then one of the last things that's kind of tricky on these old bikes is the column lock. To lock the steering, you've got a different key for the column lock. I believe it's this one. I'm not wearing glasses. Okay. And so the way this works is you see it twists, but it also pushes in. So you have to have the handlebar turned. This is going to be a little complicated because I don't have 4 hands, but you're going to have to turn the handlebar and push on the key until you feel it go in. I'm not sure if I can do this by myself.